Hello, marketing strategist. It's Dr. G. I hope you're doing great and I hope you're enjoying the class so far. So this short video is to introduce you to the third assignment that we have, your marketing strategy decision number 3, which is all around brand identity. And if you recall from the lecture that I had in the last video, a brand is defined as a name or a term or a symbol or some sort of feature that the seller uses to get you as a consumer to identify them and differentiate them from their competitors. So if you think of Apple or Nike, Snapchat, TikTok, Adidas, anything that you're interested in, the brand really helps them set themselves apart from their competitors. And why do we do this? We do this to create what we call a sustainable competitive advantage, meaning that if you have a really strong brand, the people who like you or your target audience of consumers will allow you to have higher price points. You will be the last website or the last product that they'll look at before they're ready to make a decision in terms of purchasing something. You also oftentimes have consumers who have a really positive attitude towards you, and we call this brand love. And then also what's really amazing is that if you align your brand to a particular target audience and build what we call brand equity, you are going to have a higher customer lifetime value. And if something should go wrong for whatever reason, maybe you've got a fraud situation or you got some negative publicity for whatever reason, or you do a oops in a product launch, your consumers will be more likely to forgive you for that. So building a brand is really important. So if you go into Canvas and you go into your third decision, your assignment number 3, you're going to find some instructions. And I have a workbook set up for you so you can do your thinking right within this document with your team and try to strategize around what we call brand identity. So you're going to find in there this worksheet as well as some instructions. So I look forward to having you follow that. So why are we doing this? The reason we're doing this is because I want you to think beyond traditional ways of thinking for marketing. So many people think that marketing is just about promotion or social media. It is everything surrounding that customer. So you need to think strategically beyond just driving demand. And what I mean by that is in this particular assignment, I'm going to give you 3 scenarios which will be difficult for you to think through. How are you going to solve that to make sure that your brand stays whole? So I'm going to give you some tricky things to think through, and you're going to go, what does this have to do with marketing? This isn't promotion. This isn't sales. It is because we own the customer. And your brand is so important. If something should go wrong, it is your responsibility as a marketer to help mitigate or prevent any risk that's going to happen to you. And then, as always, you're going to create a recommendation for your firm because you are the consultant. And then finally, you're going to synthesize that this time into an email format of an executive brief. So I want you to write an email based on what you recommend for the CEO, and then you're as always going to evaluate your peers. So let's talk about the first thing you're going to do. What I want you to do is attempt as a consultant to determine the worth of a brand. And you're like, well, how do I do this? The equity of a brand is generally looked at if you were going to sell your company, or if somebody wanted to evaluate your company for an investor's stake. So you can surf the internet, try to figure out, Google what is your firm's brand's worth. I promise you there will be information out there. If not, go to the financial statements and look for an item called goodwill. Goodwill often has a valuation of a brand. That's where I want you to start. So give me a number, whatever you think it is worth. Then I want you to tell me, based on your competition, how do you rank? Are you at the upper quartile? Are you down below? Are you somewhere in the middle? Are you number one? Are there places that say, in your particular category, you're number two, you're number three, you're number one? Tell me a little bit about that. And then finally, where did you get your data? You probably didn't come up with it, but did you find some sources that helped you figure that out? Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing you're going to do is I want you to create a value proposition. So if you remember from our all customers are different segmentation and target audiences, I want you to describe to me the value of your brand to a particular target audience. So what do I mean by this? You're going to create what I call a position statement. There's a formula in a position statement that never changes. We all use this. And the reason is because there's three components. The first component is who you are talking to. Who is that target segment? Because you may have several groups of people that you think would be interested in purchasing your products or loving your brand. However, you want to prioritize. So I want you to pick one target segment, and then you're going to tell us what that product is in terms of their using it. And then finally, how are you different from everybody else? And then that is your value proposition. And then how do you know this? What are your proof points? And proof points are generally things that customers are talking to you about, or perhaps you have a 5-star rating on Amazon, or because you have a seal of approval from some organization. So that is positioning. Let me give you an example of how this works. So say, for example, you're Apple. Apple has lots of different segments, right? You could be a teacher, you could be a parent, you could be somebody in a corporation. All of these different target audiences have different needs. So here's how you would develop a position statement. First, let's look at the market. Okay, people. Let's look at people in general would be our market. Who, how do they behave? What do they use this for? The people need to do creative things with their computers. Okay, so let's think about you are part of an organization and you are in charge of designing a website. So you have to have a product, a software product, and a piece of hardware, whether it's a laptop or a desktop, to do what you need to do for your job, right? So in this case, the product is the computer, the thing you do your work on. That is user-friendly. So a lot of creative people prefer the Mac because they think the software is easier to use, the operating system, as opposed to some other type of, desktop or whatever. So they choose the Mac because it's user-friendly. Because, and this is why, this is the proof in the pudding, because most marketing agencies use Macs. They don't use your IBM systems or your Microsoft systems for their design. They use Macs. So this is the proof. So that is an example of a position statement. Let's go to the second one. So you get a completely different target audience. Say you're a parent. So you're a parent. I've had school-age children. They got to get their homework done, right? So their tool is different from the creative people. You as a parent want your kids to do their homework on their own, because the last thing you need to do is be figuring out how to do their homework on a computer. So the product is the homework tool. It is no longer the creative tool on how you're going to get your work done at work. This is the homework tool. This is where your kids are going to be during the pandemic, sitting around on their Zoom calls, trying to get their homework done. And you as a parent are like, you know what? I'm going to use the Apple. Why? Because it's easy to use. You don't have to teach these kids how to use this. And why don't you have to teach these kids how to use it? The reason to believe. Because their teachers use Macs or their schools use Macs. So you're not going to use a laptop or a Chromebook if everybody in the school system is using a Mac. So this is how you differ your position statements. All right, so let's take a completely different example. You can use the position statement on yourself or whatever product it is. Say, if, for example, you're looking for a job. So I started looking for a professor job 2.5 years ago, and I landed it here at this school. So I needed to create, why do you want to hire me? This is my position statement. 2, DSU students, because you know what? At the end of the day, you pay tuition and I am your product, right? To you, DSU students who are taking whatever class it is I'm teaching. This class is Marketing 4700. It could be 4200. It could be whatever your class is. Two, the product is me. Guess what? You're paying for me to teach you. I'm your product. And what is it? I'm a professor. I have a doctorate. I had to get hired for this job. So, but say for example, I'm trying to sell you that I'm the right professor. I want you to take my classes. Why are you going to choose me? This is your differentiator. You're going to pick me because guess what? I'm not in the corporate world anymore. I'm doing this because I want to give back. I want to share my knowledge with you. I want you to achieve your goals. At the end of your program, if you are a marketing major, my goal is for you to land that job. That is my differentiator. I'm not here to get a paycheck. I'm not here to just, have the corporate career I had before. I'm here to help you. That's how I'm different. And then because I'm knowledgeable, I've been there, done that. I had a 30-year marketing career. I am dedicated to you or I would not have made a career change. And I've worked in the industry from being an entrepreneur to working at Fortune 50. So that would be a position statement. That's how I would sell you on getting you to take my class. So what I want you to do is to create a position statement for your product. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do, the third task, is to create a strategic marketing recommendation. And that will be based on some scenarios that I give you. So here's the first scenario. And these are going to be tricky because these don't really have a whole lot to do with marketing, but remember, you're in charge of the customer, you're in charge of the image of your brand. So the first thing I'm going to do is have you work through two things. I'm going to give you three scenarios. You have to do all three, evaluate all three. The first one is telling me how severe the problem is. This is like, whatever, doesn't matter. Or this is pretty big deal. This might land on, Fox News or CNN. I have to pay attention to this. And then I want you to recommend to your CEO how you're going to go about solving this problem. So the first one is several complaints from part-time hourly workers demonstrate that the firm's time tracking system was automatically taking workers off the pay clock at the end of their schedules. And furthermore, you have managers who are saying, just go, finish your work, we'll take care of it. Unfortunately, the company now is being investigated that millions of dollars are lost because there wasn't a good timekeeping system for their non-exempt employees. So think about it. You as an employee are doing a bunch of work. You're not clocking in or out, and your manager is saying, hey, I need you to work late, and you're not getting paid for it because there's a glitch in the system. So you might think to yourself, what the heck does this have to do with marketing? And it's everything to do with marketing because not only are employees part of your brand and they need to feel good about who you are, the news will get it. And you're breaking a law here. You have to pay employees, non-exempt employees or part-time employees, and a wage based on their hourly rate. So I want you to tell me on your worksheets, how big of a deal is this? Describe that. And then, how are you going to recommend a solution to the firm? Tell me things like, how are you going to fix the problem? Who's going to do it? What are you gonna say to your employees, to the street, the investors? What happens if the news gets hold of this? So I want you to be able to describe how you're going to fix the problem. All right, so that's the first one. The second scenario is to create efficiencies, meaning, there's something unprofitable here. Your company decided to end one of their original customer loyalty programs. So, and They're indicating the reason they're getting rid of it is because it is no longer profitable to sustain. They're losing money on this. So imagine you're an airline or something, or a retail organization, and you've got all these loyalty cards and people are racking up points, and you're going, we can't handle this anymore because it doesn't make a profit. What are you going to do? You as a marketer are in charge of not only the loyalty program, but how you're going to communicate it to the customers. So as a result, thousands of long-term loyal customers are now not going to be eligible for the program. So this is your job to fix. Tell me or your CEO how big of a deal this is. Is it a small problem? Is it a huge problem, and why? And then how would you go about fixing the problem? And remember, I want you to talk about what the problem is, who the problem impacts, why it's a problem, how you're going to fix it, and is there anything else we need to know? That's the second scenario. The third scenario is all around a person that you've engaged in your organization. So this is one of your firm's principal investors, is and also a celebrity spokesperson on behalf of the brand. So this is your high-profile person that is communicating to the world about your brand. And so now what's happened is the Securities and Exchange Commission has called for an investigation into the spokesperson's financial dealings in a possible real estate investment Ponzi scheme. So this particular scheme or scam may have nothing to do with you, but you have chosen this person to be an endorsement for your product, or also to have, maybe has a good investment stake in your firm. So this is your deal. You're going to tell me, how important is this? How serious is this in terms of your brand? Will the news get a hold of it? What will your employees think? What will your customers think? And then I want you to recommend the steps you would take or how you would handle this. And so, I want you to go a little bit further beyond just, we're going to fix the problem. What does that mean? How are you going to fix the problem? Who's going to do it? If the news people get a hold of it, what are you going to tell them? What are you going to say? Don't just tell me you're going to have a public statement. If you're going to do a public statement, what are you going to say in it? So this is the third thing. Yes, you have to do all three scenarios. So finally, you're going to wrap up all of this into one email. And I know you think that's kind of impossible. No. Have a quick, succinct email. Remember to thank them for the opportunity. You're the consultants. They're paying you the big bucks to get this done. So you're going to create an email to the CEO. You're going to tell them the three things you're working on. The three things, if you remember, what's the value of the brand and why you believe that so. Secondly is the value proposition. And third, you're going to walk through each of the scenarios, probably not more than a paragraph each. Tell them how big of a deal it is. Tell them how you recommend them fixing the problem to save their brand in the end. So at the end of the day, when you're ready to turn all this stuff in, you're going to turn in three things. You're going to turn in the worksheet you just completed. You are going to turn in a brief email document. You can attach anything you want. You can say, please refer to the worksheet. You can do whatever you want, however you would communicate to a CEO. And then finally, as always, you're going to rate your team members on how you participated and their contributions to this. So it's kind of a long one, and I know you're going to get this, and this will be fun for you. And because not all of you are marketers, it'll be good for you to see how marketing's role plays a part in other areas of the organization. So if you have any questions on this, call the Marketing Geek, the Marketing Doctor. I'm here to help you. Email me in Canvas or text me. I'm always here to help you out. So I hope you have fun with this, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.